Have you ever been in a relationship that felt like a fairy tale in the beginning, where the attention, the passion, and the connection felt almost too good to be true? You thought you finally found someone who truly understood you, someone who saw you like no one else ever had. But then, little by little, the dream started to fade. Their compliments turned into criticism. Their attention turned into silence. And the love that once lifted you up suddenly left you second-guessing yourself. That's not random. That's the psychological fingerprint of narcissism. Both male and female narcissists use the same hidden patterns to pull you in, confuse you, and eventually tear down the very foundation of the relationship. In this video, we're going to expose how narcissists destroy relationships, the subtle red flags you might have overlooked, and the psychology behind why it always ends the same way, no matter how much you love them or how hard you try. But before we dive in, I want to know, have you ever dealt with a narcissist in your love life? Drop a quick yes or no in the comments. I'm curious to see how many of you have lived through this. So what exactly is narcissism? At its core, narcissistic personality disorder is more than just arrogance or selfishness. It's a deep psychological pattern where a person becomes excessively self-focused, craves constant validation, and shows very little empathy for the people around them. On the surface, they might look confident, even magnetic, but underneath, they're often hiding a very fragile self-esteem. Their arrogance is really just armor to cover deep insecurity. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Male and female narcissists often express this personality in different ways. Men who lean toward narcissism typically weaponize dominance, control, and ego. They might position themselves as the authority in every situation, needing to be right, needing to win, needing to have the final word. Their power comes from making you feel small so that they can feel big. Female narcissists, on the other hand, often use more subtle strategies, things like emotional manipulation, playing the victim, or even seduction. Instead of overpowering you directly, they'll guilt-trip you, twist stories to appear innocent, or use charm and allure to keep control. It's less about domination through strength, and more about domination through emotion. Different methods, same outcome, both drain the life out of a relationship. Whether through intimidation or manipulation, the result is the same. You end up feeling confused, unworthy, and constantly on edge, trying to fix a relationship that was designed to break you down. The narcissist's relationship cycle. Now let's talk about the cycle every narcissist follows in relationships. It's not random, it's predictable, almost like a script they've perfected over time. And if you've ever been through it, you know how emotionally exhausting it can be. Step 1. Love bombing. This is where it all begins. The narcissist showers you with attention, affection, and promises of a future that feels magical. They text you constantly, call you their soulmate, and say things like, "I've never felt this way before." It feels intoxicating. You think you've found something rare, something real. But what you don't realize is that this overwhelming affection isn't about love. It's about control. They're not falling for you, they're making you fall for them so they can secure your emotional investment. Step 2. Devaluation. Once they feel they've got you, the mask starts to slip. The compliments turn into criticism. The warm attention becomes cold indifference. You may notice subtle digs about your appearance, your choices, or your worth. And when you bring it up, they twist the story, gaslight you, or accuse you of being too sensitive. Slowly, you begin doubting yourself and working harder to win back the version of them you met in the beginning. That confusion? That's exactly what they want, because when you're off balance, they're in control. Step 3. Discard. When they've drained enough validation or when you no longer serve their ego, they leave. And it's often cold, abrupt, and without closure. One day they're there, the next they're gone, sometimes moving on to someone new immediately, as if you never mattered. The pain here is brutal, because you're left wondering how someone who once adored you could cut you off so easily. But to a narcissist, relationships aren't about love. They're about supply, and once they're done, they discard you like an empty battery. Step 4. Hoovering. But here's the cruel twist, it's often not over. They may come back weeks, months, or even years later, saying things like, "I've changed," or "I realize now how much you mean to me." They pull you back with apologies, tears, or promises of a fresh start. But it's not about love, it's about access. They want to know they can still control you, still feed off your emotional energy. Psychological insight. This cycle is rooted in deep insecurity. Narcissists crave constant validation because they can't sustain genuine intimacy. Real closeness feels threatening to them, so they push and pull, love and discard, until you're caught in a loop that always benefits them and leaves you drained. How it affects relationships. So how does all of this actually affect a relationship? The damage goes far beyond simple arguments or personality clashes. Narcissists create an emotional environment that changes the way their partners see themselves, love themselves, and even trust others in the future. First, trust breaks down. Narcissists manipulate the truth so often that their partners begin questioning their own reality. It starts small, maybe denying something they clearly said, or rewriting an argument so that it feels like your fault. Over time, this gaslighting makes you feel like you can't trust your own memory, your own feelings, or even your own instincts. And when you can't trust yourself, you start leaning on them for answers, exactly the position they want you in. Second, emotional exhaustion. Living with a narcissist feels like running a marathon that never ends. You're constantly trying to avoid conflict, fix their moods, or live up to their impossible standards. The result? You feel drained, anxious, and unworthy. The vibrant version of yourself you once knew gets dimmer, because all your energy is spent trying to hold the relationship together. Third, gender dynamics play a big role. Male narcissists often dominate through control, silence, or intimidation. They may shut down communication, use anger as a weapon, or create a power imbalance where you're always walking on eggshells. Female narcissists, on the other hand, tend to dominate through emotional games, guilt-tripping, and constant comparison. They might say things like, "Why can't you be more like him?" or use tears and victimhood to make you feel guilty for even setting boundaries. Different methods, but the same goal, to keep you off balance and in their control. And here is the end result. Partners walk away emotionally scarred. They often carry guilt, shame, and fear long after the relationship ends. Many victims find themselves fearful of trusting again, second-guessing future partners, or even believing they're the problem. That's the hidden legacy of a narcissist. They don't just break relationships, they break the way you relate to love itself. Red flags and psychology behind it. So how can you spot a narcissist before you get too deep? Let's break down the red flags that almost always reveal their true nature, if you know what to look for. Red flag 1, they never truly apologize. When something goes wrong, you'll notice they rarely, if ever, take genuine accountability. Instead of saying, "I was wrong, I hurt you, and I'm sorry," they'll deflect, minimize, or even turn it back on you. "You're too sensitive," or "If you hadn't done this, I wouldn't have reacted that way." It's not about making peace, it's about avoiding responsibility. Red flag 2, conversations always circle back to them. No matter what you're talking about, they somehow make it about themselves. You share good news, and they one-up it. You talk about your struggles, and suddenly they're the victim of something even worse. Over time, you realize you're not in a two-way connection, you're an audience to their performance. Red flag 3, their charm in public doesn't match their cruelty in private. This one is huge. In public, they can be magnetic, funny, generous, and admired by everyone. But behind closed doors, the mask slips. The criticism, the manipulation, and the dismissiveness come out when no one else is watching. That contrast leaves you questioning your own reality, because everyone else sees the charming version while you're stuck with the truth. Red flag 4, their love feels conditional. In a healthy relationship, love is built on acceptance and mutual support. With a narcissist, love always feels like a transaction. They're affectionate when you're feeding their ego, giving them attention, or meeting their needs. But the moment you stop, or the moment you need something from them, the warmth disappears. You start to feel like you're only lovable when you're useful. Narcissists fear vulnerability. Genuine intimacy feels threatening because it requires exposing their insecurities. So instead, they hide behind control, manipulation, and masks. Destroying relationships, or keeping them shallow, gives them a sense of power and protection from rejection. So now you know, narcissists don't just ruin relationships by accident. They follow a predictable cycle of love bombing, devaluation, discard, and sometimes hoovering, whether they're male or female. The important truth is this: it's not about you being unworthy, unlovable, or not good enough. It's about them being unable to love in a healthy, consistent way. If you've ever felt confused, drained, or broken in a relationship with a narcissist, remember, it wasn't your fault. You were responding like any normal, loving human would. They're the ones trapped in a cycle of insecurity, control, and fear of vulnerability. So here's my question for you. Do you think male narcissists or female narcissists are harder to deal with in relationships? I'd love to hear your perspective. Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this video gave you clarity or made you feel seen, do me a quick favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into female psychology and relationships. Because here's the bottom line: the first step to protecting yourself is understanding the psychology behind the mask. Once you see the pattern, you can break free from it. So stay smart, stay strong, and always remember, real love doesn't confuse you, it comforts you.